Now with the NFL constantly evolving each year, there's actually plenty of rules you didn't even know exist. Now as we all know, each NFL game is of course started 3 minutes prior with a coin toss, determining which team kicks and which team receives. During that time, each team is allowed to send 6 players to the 50-yard line to make a call for the coin toss. But a rule actually states that each team must send 6 players to the coin toss, nothing more and nothing less. And if any of the 6 aren't in full uniform, it's an automatic coin toss loss for that team, giving the other a full advantage. The coin toss itself has been a controversial topic over the last decade, but most of the confusion comes during the coin toss before an overtime. As it stands now, the team who wins the coin toss has had the obvious advantage to win the game, with only having to score a touchdown, therefore winning the game before the opposing team can even touch the ball. But if only a field goal is scored on that first possession, then the other team still gets a chance. Obviously this doesn't make much sense, and an NFL insider recently broke down the rule and came to the conclusion that ever since the 2011 playoffs, when the rule was put in play, 8 playoff games have gone into overtime, and 5 of them were decided by a touchdown on that opening drive. The problem that's being faced is that this rule isn't fair for both teams, and it gives a clear advantage to whoever gets lucky and wins the coin toss. Throughout NFL history, around 53% of teams who won the overtime coin toss won the game, and this has left many NFL players and coaches raged and wanting this rule changed sooner than later. And when it comes to kickoffs, punts, or field goals, the rules have remained pretty much the same over the years, but there are a couple under the radar ways to manipulate some rules that only true students of the game fully understand. For example, if a team is starting off the game kicking the ball to the other team, the ball must travel 10 yards before the team that's kicking can touch the ball. For the receiving team, if the ball is kicked into the end zone, you could take a touchback, and also if the ball goes out of bounds before anyone touches it, then it's a penalty. However, what most people don't know is that if a player is out of bounds and touches the ball that's still in bounds, it's still considered out because the player with possession is out. Now, although you don't see many teams taking advantage of this trick, back in 2016 the Green Bay Packers were playing at home against the Lions when former Packers running back Ty Montgomery, who was laying out of bounds at the 3-yard line, touched the ball, which the refs blew the play a foul for the Lions, putting the ball right on the 40-yard line, a 37-yard gain because of the knowledge of this rule. The play ended up giving the Packers a huge field advantage, which led to a touchdown, and many people were upset over the play, but it was in fact legal. Now when it comes to punting, most would assume that if a team decides to go for this, then it's most likely 4th down with little to no chance of capitalizing on getting a first down if they went for another play, seeing as a punt is almost a guaranteed giveaway of the ball, unless the receiving team makes a costly mistake. But there's actually a rule surrounding punting that many may not know much about. You'd think the only way for the punting team to get the ball back is for the receiving team to fumble the kick, but it's not. The NFL actually has a rule that if the ball is punted and it hits anyone on the receiving team, it's instantly a live ball, meaning either team has a chance for possession. This weird rule also states that a punter can kick the ball directly at a person on the other team, basically to make it a live ball on purpose. So for example, if a punter kicked it directly at an opposing lineman or somehow anyone else, and it hits them, the kicking team can pick it back up and it will restart them with possession and first down. Now back in 2003, the NFL was put in a position where something had to be figured out surrounding a new scenario. This rule eventually became known as the Ricky Rule because it became named after Ricky Williams, who was known for sporting long hair during his playing days. But in 2003, a situation caused the NFL to clarify a rule that declared a player's hair as an extension of his uniform, and it became legal for players to grab onto it when attempting to tackle a ball carrier. Up to this point, there was a struggle with people being penalized for accidentally grabbing a player's hair when tackling them, and it was raising plenty of commotion, so instead of ignoring it, the NFL implemented this new rule in. The Ricky Rule states that any hair sticking out of a player's helmet is from now on being considered a part of their jersey. An NFL analyst even pointed out that it's hard in the heat of the moment to know what you're grabbing onto, so penalties are kind of ridiculous in this situation, but he said, it's very difficult to let go of a jersey, face mask, leg, arm, or even a handful of hair. Your instinct is to grab and pull down and make the tackle. It's unfair to ask defensive players to let go. Wide receivers will often wear jerseys that look painted on. Why so tight? Because they don't want defenders grabbing their jerseys as they run their routes and try to get open. Why do that and then allow long flowing hair or braids to be exposed? But back in 2015, when a study was analyzed surrounding NFL players, 14% of players in the league at the time had long enough hair to activate this Ricky Rule. Now when it comes to players joining the NFL, there's actually certain restrictions that teams put on their personnel to be even allowed to play. Many teams actually have their own rules on their players, meaning a certain weight limit in order to participate in the games, pretty much making sure that they keep themselves in shape, but individual teams can't fine players, they can only bench them. But in the NFL rulebook, it actually states that the league can fine players for exceeding a certain weight limit that they pledge to stay below. If a player is overweight, They can be fined up to $630 per pound if they're over the limit. And in 2015, Broncos defensive lineman Terrence Knighton recently spoke up about the fines he racked up over a 2-year period for being overweight. And he said it was about $300,000 in total fines for not hitting weight markers during 2014 and 2015. Now, during many points of NFL games, obviously a timeout can help in many situations, especially when the time is continuing to run and you want to stop the clock. With many NFL games being decided by a final field goal in the closing seconds, many teams do whatever it takes to try to get at least within field goal range before time expires, with hope that their kicker can finish the job. But coaches for years have been known to call timeouts just a split second before the ball is snapped in order to get inside the kicker's head, and it's known as icing the kicker. Although this move is legal according to the rules, you can only try it once, and if any coach calls back-to-back timeouts, it's automatically a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. A former Redskins coach actually found out the hard way when he called 2 consecutive timeouts to ice the kicker, which, not knowing the rules, led to a 15-yard penalty, and it made the opposing team's field goal that much easier, 36 yards instead of 51 yards, and the Redskins in fact lost because of this, 18-17 due to that 15-yard giveaway. Now, the dropkick rule is one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it's been a rule for about as long as football has been a thing. The style of kicking actually originated from rugby, but back when the NFL first started, the footballs were much more round and easy to predict if you were to drop it on the ground first. Since the NFL and AFL merger, it's only been done once, and that was by Patriots' former backup quarterback Doug Flutie, who did it in a game against the Miami Dolphins, and Saints QB Drew Brees attempted in the 2012 Pro Bowl, but he wasn't able to make the field goal. Now, when it comes to this drop kick, when can it be allowed? This can be performed during the same situation as a field goal, which would of course result in 3 points, or it can be implemented during an extra point after a touchdown for 1 point. Now, another odd rule that's been in the league for a long time now is the snaps between the quarterback's legs rule, which states that while the QB is under center, if the ball is snapped between his legs, the QB is the only person who can touch the ball next. If the QB does grab it, then the ball is live, but if a player on the quarterback's team touches it before him, it's a dead ball and false start penalty. Then if the opposing team grabs it, then it's ruled a dead ball. The last time this happened was in 2007 during a game between the Eagles and Bears, when the Bears QB at that time had the ball snapped between his legs and an Eagles defender scooped it up and ran it back for a touchdown, or so he thought, until the refs ruled it a dead ball, all thanks to the snap between the quarterback's legs rule. Now, shoe rules have been becoming more and more of a problem in today's league, and the reason is because every year more and more players want to be individuals and create a brand for themselves, which isn't bad, but it can lead to many fines for crossing certain guidelines. Back when Antonio Brown was on the Steelers, he often wanted to wear custom cleats with paintings or superheroes, anime characters, and even his famous Arnold Palmer cleats that he got fined for wearing. When a player has to deal with a shoe company, they aren't allowed to cover the cleats up in a way that you aren't able to still clearly tell the brand, because brands like Nike want that swoosh nice and vibrant. Odell Beckham Jr. was recently also fined upwards of $18,000 for wearing cleats in honor of the late Craig Sager on his cleats. But recently, plenty of NFL players and teams complained enough that in 2017, the NFL then decided to let people wear custom cleats but under certain rules. The first rule is that players cannot cover up the logos that are partnered with the NFL like Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour. The second rule is that the cleats cannot have any written messages that are offensive to any other person, fan, or player. Last but not least, the final rule states that the players are not allowed to express their political views anywhere on the cleats. Last year, the league allowed players to show off their custom cleats during Week 13 in order to help a charity of their choice. The charity had to be approved by the league beforehand, and all the cleats had to be auctioned off after Week 13 with the proceeds going towards that charity. Now, over the years in the NFL, a lot of celebrations actually became something that's against the rules. Back in 2012, the NFL decided to put a ban on any player using the football as a prop in a celebration, and some of that stemmed from Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco, who often used the football as a prop every time he scored a touchdown. One highly controversial celebration that he did was get on his knees and press the ball rapidly with 2 hands like he was doing CPR. In 2014, the NFL then put a separate ban on a certain celebration that they believed was getting out of hand. Thanks to tight end Jimmy Graham, while he was on the Saints back then, he scored against the Falcons and slam dunked the football so hard in the goalpost that it completely bent the metal. Thankfully for Jimmy, the Lambeau Leap is still something that will remain a legal celebration, but the vice president of officiating actually talked about the recent bans on certain celebrations, and he said, "We've grandfathered in some, the Lambeau Leap and things like that, but dunking will come out. Using the ball as a prop or any object as a prop, whether that's the goalpost, crossbar, that'll come out, and that'll be a foul next season." Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez loved to do the dunking celebration in-game, and he was one of the original innovators for in-game celebrations. This dunking rule was put in place right after he retired, and when he heard about the news, He tweeted and said, "The NFL says no more dunking over the goalpost. This one I don't understand. Looks like I got out just in time." But many players over the years love to do this dunking celebration, including recently retired Calvin Johnson, who not only did it plenty of times, but after they put the fine in play trying to ban the celebration, he even came out and said, "I'm still gonna dunk. I just won't touch the rim," referring to the goalpost. The NFL commissioner even commented on this entire situation a few years ago, and felt that any celebrations delaying the game whatsoever would be against the rules, and this dunking one had to go because of the damage and delay that it could cause. But his statement basically read, "Dunking falls under the category because of the possibility that the goalpost could be dislodged and require repairs. It also violates a rule that remains in place, using the goalpost as a prop. That's largely why it was banned in 2014 after being popularized by tight ends Tony Gonzalez and Jimmy Graham, among others." Other than Calvin Johnson, Jimmy Graham, and Tony Gonzalez, we've seen many players attempt this over the years, including Donald Penn, the legendary Drew Brees, even Devontae Adams threw down a one-of-a-kind 360 version of this celebration. Hey you, see this video right here? These NFL mansions are unbelievable and cost prices that you won't believe. What are you still doing here? Click right now, I'll see you there.